It is a beautiful day. It is a beautiful day to be cute and gay. How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing? Oh, I forgot to take my medication. I haven't taken my medication yet. Oops. How are you all? Actually, let me finish doing my stretches. How's everyone doing? Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are thriving, not just surviving. I forgot to take my medication, so I need to go and do that. It is a wonderful day. How's everyone doing? Good morning. Hello. Hello. Oh, my goodness gracious. We're gonna get to this in a second. Let me take my meds. I almost forgot to take them. Hello, Kate. Good morning. Oh my goodness, y'all. Okay, today is probably going to be one of the best live streams that I've ever done. I know that's a big bar, but today is going to be a really good live stream because there's a lot of different stuff that I want to cover. Like, there's a lot of different aspects that I think honestly kind of tie really well together. And I'm excited to talk about it because there's some funny things. There's also some more serious things. And we also get to have a deep discussion. And I'm going to be doing like a deep expose about everything happening internationally. So, you know, right now we know that there's a lot of conflict going on in the Middle East. I always try to approach my political news show from the lens of someone who isn't informed. And the reason I do that is because I don't think that our news media does a good job at actually using common sense layman's terms to communicate with people. So a lot of people that consume news are not the ones who are the most politically informed. So they're like, I don't even know where to start. Like, what does that mean? One of my big critiques of media is that they use politically like coded language where only people who are politically knowledgeable understand. And so something I try to do is make it easy to understand. So please make sure to send some likes. We're gonna start off with something that's funny, and then we're gonna get to something more serious and substantive. And I'm starting off with this because this is just funny. Also, Friday, I always try to start with something that's a little bit more funny. And so this isn't meant to be like a serious expose or anything, you know, like super. This isn't being like Donald Trump is, yeah, I'm not calling out his corruption. This is just a funny moment, okay? This is just a funny moment. Are you from the United Gays of America? Yes, I am. So this is just meant to be more of a funny moment. And I'm going to be highlighting how there's actually an element that's kind of serious with this. I don't think in the way that they intended, but if you had not heard, the past few days, there was the NATO summit. NATO, if you've ever heard that word, it stands for North Atlantic Trade Organization. Either one of those two. It's basically a big collective of a whole bunch of countries within the North Atlantic. So that includes a lot of Europe, the United States, I believe Canada. Trump at one point, I think he wanted to back out of NATO at one point. I don't think that, I mean, that didn't happen, I don't think. But anyway, I'd have to double check that. But bros from the United States of Israel? No, I am not. Are you talking about Trump? I mean, I can't, no. But anyway, so NATO actually just recently had their summit, and the NATO Chief General dude is a guy with the last name Rutte, R-U-T-T-E. I don't know if he pronounces it Rutte or Root. I'm just going to say Root, okay? While there was an exchange going on, a lot of this conference a good, or I shouldn't say a lot, but like a good chunk of it was actually talking about the United States' approach to foreign policy with everything happening with Israel and Iran. And we'll get to that in a second. But there was a really funny moment that, you know, it's meant to be lighthearted. It's not super serious. But one of the moments from this that was really, really interesting was the NATO Secretary General used an analogy where the United States is the daddy of Israel and Iran. So let me get to that here. Let me get to that. To that. NATO Secretary Mark Rutte called President Donald Trump daddy on Wednesday, reacting to the president's use of expletives when he accused Israel and Iran of violating a ceasefire agreement. Early Wednesday morning, during a bilateral meeting between Trump and Rutte during the NATO summit in the Netherlands in The Hague, Trump likened the countries of Israel and Iran to two kids in the schoolyard that had a big fight. He says, you know, hold on, I need the hands, hold on. If you're enjoying the live, please make sure to send some likes. He said, you know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2 to 3 minutes and then say that then it's easy to stop them. And, so daddy has to, he said, you know, daddy has to use some strong language to get them to stop, is what Rutte said. You have to use strong language, Trump agreed. Every so often, you have to use a certain word. So this is how that exchange is going down. Again, it's not super serious. One day earlier, Trump became visibly frustrated about the Israel-Iran conflict, blurting an expletive before departing to the White House en route to the summit. He eventually was just like, look, they don't know what they're doing. They don't even know what they're fighting about anymore. Trump was receptive to Rutte's nickname, saying during a press conference later Wednesday that the Secretary General meant it in an affectionate manner. Asked if Trump views NATO allies as his children, the president responded, no, I think Rutte likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? He did it very affectionately. Daddy, you're my daddy. No, of course, people are going to take that section of the daddy, you're my daddy, and they're going to use it. They're going to use it for memes and content for, you know, years to come. Because it's just funny. It's just funny. Like, I can't stand Trump. I think he's a danger to democracy. You know, I'm a huge, staunch, like, progressive, like these AOC Bernie types. Oh no, cancel me. But, like, you have to admit, like, Trump is dangerous for democracy, but he's also, if he wasn't in politics, if he was just a satirical character, oh my God, he would be filling up stadiums if he was just acting as a comedian. But I think what makes him so absurd is that he actually views himself very seriously, which, anyway. But, so Donald Trump is just undeniably, in my view, at least, he's a funny guy, naturally. But he's also dangerous. But Rutte later defended his use of the word and continued to pile praise on Trump, describing him as a good friend. So, as a little summary, basically what happens is Donald Trump and this guy Rutte, the Secretary Chief General NATO guy, are discussing what's happening between Israel and Iran and the United States' involvement. And Rutte, the guy, the NATO dude, says that he's like, yeah, it's like you're the dad and you have two children that you are letting them fight, and, you know, then daddy has to come in and use some strong language. So he was using it as a metaphor. He was using it as like a metaphor to describe, you know, the current relationship between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Someone says, I hate this guy so much. Are you talking about me? Because I hope not. I don't hate you, dude. Hate is bad for your heart, okay? Gives you high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and bad acne. So, anyway, but point is, basically, it was a metaphor that was kind of just funny. It's not like, oh my God, this is serious, you know, Trump needs to, you know, be held accountable for this corruption. It's just a funny moment, okay? It was just like a metaphor that, you know, is just lighthearted, but I also just kind of think it's funny that NATO is like, Trump, you're like the dad of Israel and Iran. Now, if we want to extrapolate that, that is a little bit silly, because now Donald Trump is running rampant. The White House is running rampant on this idea that Donald Trump is the daddy, America's daddy. This was something posted from the official White House account on X, formerly known as Twitter. And, you know, they also posted this, the song Daddy's Home from Usher, which is just like, one of my favorite journalists, Kyle Kalinske, was like, pretty sure MAGA doesn't even know who Usher is. I was laughing so hard at that. But nothing says presidential dignity like the official White House account cosplaying as a thirsty fan page. But basically, you have all of these people that, you know, some of the people on the right are embracing this whole idea that Trump is America's daddy. There's some people that are like, oh my gosh, this is unhealthy, fetishistic. And like, I mean, yeah, but this is also not as serious as other things that are really weird. There's this person that said, nothing to see here, folks, just a bunch of unbased homophobes calling grown-ass man who's not their father daddy. And so then you have Honey, Sugar Daddy's Home. I think that's Melania. So you have some people reacting positively and negatively. Now, truth be told, during this exchange, Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State, did crack up, you know, so he was kind of laughing at it. And then there were some people that were Trump supporters that said, I love Trump, but this video coming from the White House, but this is not this video. I love Trump, but not this video coming from the White House. Maybe I'm too old to appreciate it. And then this guy says, I voted for you, but I'm done. This is making a mockery of the White House. Do this type of crap on your own campaign account. And I'm like, listen, I love a FAFO moment for these far right-wing people that now are facing the negative ramifications of Donald Trump's horrific policies. But I saw this and I'm like, this was your breaking point? This was your breaking point. Oh my gosh, how dare. Like, I just find that laughable. Not the deporting people, U.S. citizens, without due process. Not the violating the notion of the Constitution's right to due process. Not him constantly just releasing the police against our own citizens. Like, there are so many things where I'm just like, wow, okay, so out of all the things, someone said this live gave me AIDS. See, this is the thing. As a little pause, there's nothing substantive to say that these trolls have. They have to go to, like, you want to talk about weird fetishistic things? Some comments are really like, go seek professional help. Like, so anyway, that's interesting. But anyway, so I just found that kind of I found that kind of funny with, like, oh, out of all the things, that was your breaking point? This whole daddy thing with Trump is bizarre, and I say that as a Trump supporter. So you also have some people that are like, yeah, it's kind of cringy. Now, I also made this meme. I made this because I thought it was kind of funny. This is a picture of Trump during that moment when he was asked. So if you're like, wait, hold on, are you sure? It's the same moment when he was asked about all of this at the NATO summit. Right there. So I made this little meme, and he said, Daddy, you're my daddy, and between Israel and Iran. Now, okay, all of this is in good fun. Oh, you know, this guy is basically saying that Donald Trump and the United States is the daddy of Israel and Iran. Now, I think it's all in good fun, but let's also look at it kind of as a serious thing. The United States is not the parent of other countries. Now, they may have meant it as like you are the person in the middle trying to mediate between them, which Donald Trump and the United States is not in the middle. We are allies with Israel, whether we like it or not, which I don't, because Israel is committing a genocide against Palestinian people. Now, of course, there's a difference between the horrific policies of Israel and their government doing awful things to Palestinian people and people who are Jewish themselves. Obviously, I have a lot of Jewish friends. And also, there's a lot of great Jewish people advocating for a Palestinian state and for peace, a two-state or a one-state solution. That all being said, looking at this, the NATO chief using the metaphor even saying that like the United States is a parent of two kids that are fighting, I don't think that's, it's meant as a lighthearted thing, but look at it from a serious angle. This is part of what I believe, and this is my interpretation, my analysis, you can disagree. The fact that there is this idea that there are relationships between like other countries in regards to you're a parent of this country or like some sort of hierarchy. That's where people get into the idea and the real critique of American supremacy or even the idea of white supremacy. So dude, like that gets to, oh my gosh, these woke people. Yeah. Like, that's where part of them are coming from. So even in a harmless analogy like that, I think it's also, there's a real conversation to be had. The United States is not the policeman or the country that's supposed to oversee peace for all the other ones. We are just a participant on the global stage. Now, the United States likes to try and be the boss of other countries, and I'm saying that as a full red-blooded American male. And in some cases, you might be able to argue that's good, but in some cases, it's like, okay, that's probably not the best. So between this Israel and Iran situation, even the NATO chief being like, yeah, you know, it's like you're the dad between the two of them. You let them fight and then you intervene. It's like America is not the dad, the parent of two other Middle Eastern countries. Now, again, if you're like, oh, he was just meaning it in like a fun little way. Sure. But like, there was also some, you're not just saying it as a joke to be funny. You're also trying to make a substantive point that you're overseeing that relationship. So there's a conversation to be had. And this is what gets into what woke people, oh dear, the woke people, also say about like, oh yeah, well, we need to address American supremacy or white supremacy. So I hope that all makes sense. If y'all are following me, I know there's a lot of trolling, obnoxious people in the chat. Literally, these people have nothing else better to do. Like, there are some people who have an unhealthy obsession with me. It's really strange. Now, I mean, I think that I'm cute. I know that I'm cute. But, like, there are some people who are just unhealthily, like, obsessed with trying to get my attention. Thank you. What's it like having an unstoppable, insatiable crush on me? Like, you don't have to agree with my opinions or my analysis. Not at all. I'm just simply pointing out all of this. So, with all of that being said, I wanted to kind of highlight that relationship sort of debacle, because there's also a serious conversation to be had. Personally, I don't think that the United States needs to assume any sort of parent role, because we are not a parent to these other countries. We're not. So, I just wanted to throw that in there. Now, shifting topics just slightly, I want to give an update about what is happening with Israel, Iran, everything that has been happening. There's this whole debacle around uranium, enriched uranium. And they're like, well, where's the enriched uranium? So let me give you an update about what's happening in Israel and Iran. Now you're like, oh, well, I haven't heard of like any big fighting or any big updates. There's a lot of information that I think is really important to share. And I might be a little hyperbolic in saying this, but this next part of the live stream, I think is going to be really enlightening and really important. And you might be like, okay, well, I've never heard that kind of stuff. This is my biggest critique of American media in general. Sometimes they lose the plot. So let's start with a little bit more of like the semantics and the drama and then get into the seriousness. So a while back, literally June 23rd, that's, how long ago is that? That's like, it's almost a week ago or now. So this Fox reporter, her name is Jennifer Griffin. Oh, thanks, C-Bar. I have a crush on Scott's news show. He's legit. Oh, thank you. C-Bar's really cool. This is Jennifer Griffin. She is a Fox News Pentagon reporter. So She talks a lot about war, about the updates, everything that's happening. And as a quick little summary for everything that has happened in the Middle East, if you're like, I don't even know what's been happening, can you give me like a 30-second summary? Yes. Basically, our ally Israel ropes us into bombing Iran, bombing another country, Iran, which, you know, they have a different faith, they're a different ethnicity than us. Oh my gosh, they're scary. So we bomb Iran, then they decide to bomb our airbase, our US airbase in Qatar. You know that country that Trump took the plane from? Yeah. So they bomb our airstrip in Qatar, and then Donald Trump comes out and is like, they're doing a ceasefire agreement, they're doing a ceasefire. And as soon as Donald Trump's like, I negotiated ceasefire, I'm amazing, then they start bombing each other. They start bombing each other, so Iran bombs Israel, Israel bombs Iran, and now there hasn't been any fighting. But there's this big controversy, there's also a lot of like unknowns around this whole idea. You've probably heard of the term enriched uranium, enriched uranium, enriched uranium, and you're like, what is this whole thing with the enriched uranium? Let me break it down to you. The reason why Israel wanted us to bomb Iran was that Israel was nervous that Iran has this enriched uranium. Enriched uranium can be used for nuclear weapons. It also can be used for nuclear power plants. I live in North Carolina, and there's a nuclear power plant nearby where I live. You might have nuclear power plants nearby where you live. They're the really big ones with like the big like, it's called a cooling tower, the big thing that looks kind of ominous. That's actually just pumping out steam, by the way. I have a background in energy and sustainability. That all being said, there's this whole thing of like, oh, did we blow up the enriched uranium? Now, we and Israel are apparently so afraid that Iran has this enriched uranium, which you can use for nuclear weapons, but you can also use that to fuel power plants. So I've used this analogy over and over again. If I'm in a kitchen and I'm sharpening a knife, could it mean that I'm going to use it to hurt someone? Sure. Could it also mean that I'm planning on making a meal? Sure. So we basically were coerced by Israel to bomb Iran over this fear that they have all this enriched uranium. Now you'll say, well, Scott, they might have intelligence that you don't. That's fair. But we are bombing them over their supply of enriched uranium. Now, our director of national intelligence, her name is Tulsi Gabbard. She's a former Democratic congresswoman. It's this lady right here. She's like the Cruella de Vil. She has black hair and then a little bit of a white stripe. Oh, Ginger Monster, thank you. Thank you. She basically went, and during March, she went to she basically gave a testimony where she said, hey, Iran is enriching uranium, but there's no evidence to show that they're actually going to use that enriched uranium to then make nuclear weapons. So she literally goes before Congress. On March 25th, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard delivered the U.S. intelligence community's IC collaborative conclusions covering a broad swath of national security issues. Basically, they were like, yeah, the intelligence community continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon and that they're not going to be using this enriched uranium for nefarious purposes. So she goes forward and says all of these things. And all of that being said, we bomb Iran. We bomb Iran. There are 3 different facilities. We bomb them because they have this enriched uranium. Y'all following me so far? Now, what's really interesting with all of this is that Donald Trump is like, Donald Trump and basically the right are being like, yeah, well, they blew it all up. It was a perfect attack. They blew it all up. You know, it was kaboom, kaboom. Hold on, where is it all? It's like, total obliteration, nuclear sites are destroyed, boom, totally gone, totally destroyed. He used the term obliteration quite often. It was called Obliteration. Obliteration. I've seen the site and it's obliterated. So, someone said message retracted. Oh, okay. Interesting. I'm gonna turn back on the normal chats now because sometimes I just have to do that to get all of the weird, creepy people away. Anyway, so following me here, he is saying, our president is basically saying that the sites were obliterated, where this enriched uranium is. Okay, again, the enriched uranium doesn't mean that you're building nuclear weapons. It could also mean that you're storing that to then use for nuclear power. Does that all make sense? Someone said you are the weird, creepy person. LOL. That's just funny. So, that all being said, and we'll get there. Nuclear power needs 3% to 5%. Weapons need 20 to 85%. Yeah. The impressions are killing me. Oh, let me tell you, the impressions, they'll go all day long. Look, some people have called me daddy, some people haven't, but let me tell you, I will be America's daddy. My Trump impression is just a little bit gay. So, anyway. So, we are basically roped into this conflict. Israel ropes us in saying, you should bomb Iran because they have all this enriched uranium. We go and bomb Iran at 3 different sites. Fordo, something, in Isfahan. I forget what the other one is called. So we bomb these sites where this enriched uranium is. Donald Trump says, it's a perfect hit. It's a perfect hit. I've seen the site. It's obliterated. Boom. Now, there's also been a lot of reports saying that it's actually not been obliterated. So, U.S. initial report. Iran nuclear program set back by months. Not obliterated. You're like, wait, what? Hold on. So there's actually been several reports being like, we don't know where the enriched uranium actually is. It's kind of, there's like, it could be buried. It could have been moved. It's like early intelligence actually shows that, hey, we may have only set it back a few months, not by years, or obliterated it. Now, we're going to get into discussing media bias. We're going to get into discussing, trust in media institutions. Someone said, do you support all LGBTQ people such as trans people? Absolutely. That's not the discussion that we're having. I appreciate the super chat. Let me say really quickly to address that. Trans people and drag queens were the ones that started the first fights for liberation for LGBTQ people. So if you're one of these people that is a TERF, or if you support gay people but not trans or non-binary or intersex or other people, then you're gross. Pure, raw, and simple. It's important to recognize that trans people were on the front lines fighting for LGBTQ equality. They were the first people to really fight back. So if you're one of these people like me, I'm a cisgendered gay guy, okay? If you're one of these people that is incredibly transphobic, it's like, okay, so they fought for your liberation, but you won't fight for them. So just putting that and just throwing that in there. So yes, absolutely. Anyway, going back to this here. So, and y'all, I'm just gonna say, please try to keep the chat and everything on topic. That's just my request. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to turn back on only subscriber chats. Just saying. Because no one likes that kind of deviation. So basically, there's this whole idea of Iran. They have these nuclear sites. Oh my gosh, they've enriched all this uranium. Oh, it's so dangerous. But then we bomb them, and our intelligence is basically saying, yeah, we're not sure if they've actually been destroyed yet. I'm gonna have to see. I'm just gonna have to turn back on only subscriber chats. It's exhausting. This is why I don't have on. These people get so weird. It's like, I mean, I think hopefully that person was asking just in a genuine, good manner. But this is the thing. Don't divert the conversation. That's what they always try to do. it's annoying. I don't know if that person was good intention or not. If they were, I apologize, but like it's frustrating. So all of this being said, this enriched uranium had basically, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so terrifying. Y'all are following me with all of this, right? I know there are some people that are like, oh, you know, I need a recap. Basically, we are roped into this war over the idea that Iran has this enriched uranium. We blow it up. Enriched uranium does not mean that you are making nuclear weapons. It could mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean it. Enriched uranium can be used for nuclear power plants. It could also be used for nuclear weapons. So just because, again, I use this analogy, just because I'm sharpening, no, you're good, Jane. You're good. Was it you who asked the question? Was it you who asked the question? No, it was not. So just because you're sharpening a knife in a kitchen doesn't mean that you're going to use it to hurt someone. It could also mean that you're going to use it to make a meal. Also, if you're enjoying the live, please make sure to like the stream. So this gets into current events where Donald Trump is prolifically defending, we obliterated it, but then there's also intel saying that we didn't obliterate these sites. So the Trump administration is basically saying that they demolished it. They use the term obliterated. Meanwhile, there's intelligence from Trump's administration saying that it wasn't. And now Donald Trump and his supporters are actively being like, oh my gosh, who leaked the information? So which gives credibility to the intelligence report. But let me just go in order here because I prepare an order every single morning. So let me start off with this. Jennifer Griffin is this Pentagon Fox News reporter. And back a week ago, she was the first person to really actually point out, hey, you know, we supposedly blew up all these sites, but there's also intelligence that I have received from the Pentagon saying that they're not actually sure where the enriched uranium actually is. So they're like, we don't know if it was if it was destroyed, we don't know if it was moved, you know, we don't actually know where it is. Hold on a second, let me blow my nose. Now, while I started the live stream yesterday, I started the live stream around like 10 o'clock or so. At that time, Pete Hegseth, our defense secretary, basically, he welcomed up a panel for people to then inquire about what's been happening. So while I was live yesterday, there was this monumental press briefing that happens. So, and I wasn't able to report on it because I prepare my live show, you know, and that's when I go live. So if something happens while I'm live, it's hard for me to report on it. But just putting that all in perspective there, that's who Jennifer Griffin is. And basically, all of that being said, during this press conference, Pete Hegseth basically just lobs a huge insult at Jennifer Griffin. Basically like, you've been the worst when it comes to this reporting. And it's kind of telling because like, the 8 a.m. press conference was called specifically to counter reports based on leaked intelligence that Saturday's bombing of Iranian facilities actually failed to destroy all of Iran's capabilities. Both the CNN and New York Times had reported that intelligence assessments show that Iran might only be a few months away from developing nuclear warhead, directly undercutting the White House's insistence that its strike had obliterated Iran's nuclear program. So I feel so disorganized with the way that I've, with everything. You know what? Hold on. Let me take a sip of coffee. I'm just gonna recap everything. Don't hate me for drinking Starbucks. It's just today. So I do want to actually, I want to encompass and just summarize everything that has happened real quick. For people who are just scrolling in here, let me give you a quick little summary of what has happened and what has led up to this point. You are going to be seeing a lot of stuff in the news about enriched uranium. Enriched uranium Um, enriched uranium. Well, enriched uranium can be used for power. It can also be used for nuclear weapons. Just because you have a lot of enriched uranium doesn't mean that you're going to use it to build nuclear weapons. Does that make sense? Just because I'm sharpening a knife in a kitchen does not mean that I'm going to use it to stab someone. It can mean that I'm going to use that to make a meal. And we are basically convinced by Israel to bomb their biggest nemesis, Iran. So we, the United States, are brought into a conflict between these two countries, Israel and Iran. Because we are also Israel's ally. So that's where that's why that connection is there. We bomb Iran over the fact that they have this enriched uranium. Well, again, we don't know what that enriched uranium is being used for. And the Director of National Intelligence, appointed by Donald Trump himself, basically said back in March, hey, they are enriching uranium, but there's no evidence to show that they're using that enriched uranium to build nuclear weapons. The intelligence community continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Like, they have enriched uranium, they have supplies of that, but, there's also evidence showing that they suspended their nuclear weapons program back in 2003, and it continues to be suspended. It's like, okay. So our Director of National Intelligence is saying, yeah, they have enriched uranium, but it doesn't look like they're going to use it to bomb anything. And we go ahead and bomb them anyway. The war-hungry, the super war-hungry country that we are, we just go and bomb them. We're like, yeah, let's just bomb them. And then they bomb us back. Then Israel and Iran are bombing each other. Then there's eventually, I guess, a temporary ceasefire. We don't know where that actually is. Meanwhile, there are a lot of reports being like, we actually don't know where the uranium actually is. So let's break all of that down here. Let's break all of it down. Jennifer Griffin is a Fox News reporter who is being basically chastised by Pete Hegseth for her reporting about all of this. Now, I don't know her, and I'm not here to defend her necessarily, but basically he goes in really, really hard on all of that. No, it doesn't make sense. If you have uranium at 90%, they don't use that for power-only bombs. Quick Google search. I'll show you what my quick Google search says in a second here as well. Just to put that up there. Just to put it up there. I also have a background in energy. I don't know everything, but I will tell you, enriched uranium is also used for nuclear power. So don't be trying to do that. I appreciate if someone is correcting me on that, although I have other information that kind of lends to what I'm saying here. But going forward, basically they were chastising her for being like, yeah, well, we don't know where the enriched uranium actually is. And there were other Fox News people that were being like, hey, the attack on her was unfair. Basically, they criticized her for her credibility on her reporting. It's like, it's about the enriched uranium. Do you have certainty that all of the highly enriched uranium was inside of Fordo Mountain, or was it possibly moved? So there's all of this controversy around where it actually is. And, of course, the Trump administration is saying that, oh, it was completely destroyed. It was completely destroyed. Though also, hold on just a second. You don't enrich uranium for that high of a power use? That is not... it's not true. Whew. People are coming in here trying to distract me. It's annoying. It's annoying. Literally, they're distracting me from debuting the information that I'm here presenting. It's kind of annoying. Are we doing all right in the chat here? I love all of you. I know that I'm trying not to let them get me down. So if you are send me some good vibes. I need to get back on track here. Basically, Jennifer Griffin was someone that was questioning around this enriched uranium, where she was like, you know, where is it? All that stuff. And the 8 a.m. press conference was called specifically to counter reports based on leaked intelligence that Saturday's bombing of uranium nuclear facilities failed to destroy all of Iran's capabilities. The White House insistence that the strike had obliterated, they were like, yeah, it had obliterated everything. Let me then just get to the crux here. Well, Donald Trump actually even at one point was asked about this, and he said, quote, "The intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says that we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence suggests." And then goes further here, where it's like, where Trump is now saying that, yeah, we don't know if it actually destroyed everything. You're doing great. Thank you. I feel like I just need to like take a second. Let me just take a second here. Okay. Sometimes you just need a breather. It's just frustrating when those things happen. And there's just so much that like Scott got to G2C love you. I don't know what that means. But I'm always so frustrated when I feel like trolls try to distract me, and they do well. Grr. You're not a troll, but you know. I feel like sometimes whenever I get off track, I just need to like reorient. Y'all ever been there? Darn, I'm so disappointed with myself on this live right now. I'm so hard on myself, y'all. Basically, Donald Trump at one point at the NATO summit said that it was inconclusive whether everything was destroyed. You know what? Hold on. I'm actually gonna like fully start over. Glad to see you, I think. Let me fully start over here because I feel like I need to. I'm gonna do like a quick little recap of everything. I'm so sorry. I know I started over so many different times, but I also just want to encompass everything, okay? I want to encompass everything. So, all right. Basically, long story short, to everything that has been happening internationally, if there's a time that you need to like the stream, now is the time, all right? So, if you're like, I don't know what's happening, I hear stuff happening in the Middle East, what is going on? I'll give you a minute rundown. We are roped into a situation between Israel and Iran. Iran is enriching uranium. Enriching uranium can be used for a nuclear weapon, but it also doesn't mean it's going to be used for a nuclear weapon. You can use it to power nuclear power plants or use it to build nuclear weapons. Over the years, we've seen the world has escalated their enriched uranium reserves. Again, the metaphor I use all the time. Just because I'm sharpening a knife in a kitchen does not mean I'm going to use it to hurt someone. I could use it to make a meal. It warrants, you know, monitoring, but like doesn't mean that. Now, all that being said, we bomb Iran at the request of Israel because they have this enriched uranium. Iran responds and bombs us back at our airbase in Qatar. Qatar, the country that gave Trump that plane. So they bomb Qatar. They bomb our airbase in Qatar, and then Israel and Iran start bombing each other. They start bombing each other. Donald Trump's like, we negotiated a ceasefire. It's fantastic. They bomb each other more, and then Trump is like, stop bombing, stop bombing, stop bombing. So, meanwhile, we're not actually even sure where the enriched uranium is. Again, the stuff that could be used for nuclear weapons, but isn't necessarily. And a lot of Donald Trump's statements have been around saying, you know, that it was all obliterated. The nuclear sites in Iran are completely destroyed. They're completely destroyed. Boom, gone. I've seen the site and it's been obliterated. It's been obliterated. It was called Obliteration. Obliteration. Boom. So he's going through and saying that all of it was obliterated. Except there are U.S. intelligence reports that are saying, hey, actually, it wasn't like obliterated, but the nuclear program was set back for several months. So even J.D. Vance suggests that the uranium was buried, even though there's a intelligence brief that came from the Department, the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, showing that actually it may not have all been blown up. So to kind of bring this all about, early U.S. intel assessments suggest that strikes on Iran did not actually destroy the nuclear sites. Now, we're going to talk about media bias here in a second. According to an early U.S. intelligence assessment that was described by 7 people briefed on it, this intelligence assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm, basically said that, you know, this is ongoing, but also these sites weren't completely destroyed. Now, here's the thing. You're like, okay, well, Donald Trump is saying that it's destroyed. The Defense Intelligence Agency, led by the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who Trump appointed, this intelligence agency is saying that it might not actually be destroyed. So it's hard for me. This is where you, the viewer, gets to make up your mind. Here's the thing. It's like, well, who do you trust? Because I'm like, all right, well, I want to see this defense intelligence assessment. Well, I went to the Department of Defense and I looked for the releases. I looked for publications, and this assessment has only been talked about in the news. This is where it gets hard for people to understand or trust media. So this is where I wanted to go. This is where I wanted to go. I, as a journalist and doing what I do here on live, I always strive to go to the primary sources. So the primary source in this assessment, or in this whole thing, is this defense intelligence assessment. But the thing is that's really tough is because it's classified, because that intel should not have been leaked, it's not easily accessible for someone like me to then actually show you the text of what it says. So you have to trust the most accurate, which is then a secondary source. The people who say that they've seen it, that they've reported on it. Then you have people like Donald Trump that get angry at the coverage of that, or the existence that it exists. So this is where it can be really, really tricky for journalism, because it's like, well, who do you end up trusting? And MAGA is always going to default trust Trump. They're always going to default trust Trump because everything that he does and says is like a god. All right? So that all being said, it's kind of like, well, where do you then go to, you know, understand? So that's why I always try to use primary sources. I can neither confirm nor deny that Iran's sites were blown up, fully, completely obliterated. Why? Because they still haven't finished that assessment, and the early one says that it's still, you know, ongoing with, like, we're not sure if it actually was fully blown up or not. You know, was the fuel buried? Was the fuel moved? So there's a lot of confusion up in the air. That's why I also entitled part of the live, like, the mystery of it. Now, and there's also another thing that I want to point out as well. So, and this is something that I don't think our news media has done a good job at also covering. So, what's really interesting is that Tulsi Gabbard, the same person that in her March testimony said that there's no evidence showing that Iran is building nuclear weapons, she's like, yeah, they're just enriching uranium. They're not actually building nuclear weapons. Now has decided to completely do a 180 because of the pressure that Trump has given her. Tulsi Gabbard says Iran could produce nuclear weapons within weeks, months after she testified before Congress the country was not building them. So she's like, oh yeah, I was taken out of context. No, you were not. Like, you directly shared and said these things. And she's like, President Trump has been clear that they can't develop nuclear weapons, and I agree, where she said that U.S. intelligence agencies had concluded that Iran was not building any nuclear weapons, and experts also determined that Iran had not resumed all that stuff. And what's really interesting is, like, earlier this month, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, the nuclear watchdog, expressed concern about Iran building up their stockpile of enriched uranium, which can be used to make reactor fuel, but also nuclear weapons. And this gets into the crux of the big takeaway from the live stream today. I finally got to it after all those people tried to distract me. It's so annoying. The US president believes that Iran was very close to having a nuclear weapon. Does not know. I want to, like, put that clearly. And I want to give you a little bit more context here. This is from the World Nuclear Association. When you look up stuff about uranium enrichment, there are 500 different commercial power nuclear reactors. There's 500 different types. And they operate and they're in construction all over the world. And most nuclear reactors use enriched uranium. Does that make sense? So this enriched uranium could be used for power, could also be used for nuclear weapons. So it's used to power your typical nuclear power plant, just like the ones in the United States. And when you actually go and look up, does Iran suffer from blackouts, like power blackouts? It's like, yes, Iran experiences frequent power outages. This is the AI overview. Let me get to the specifics here in a second. This is due to a combination of factors, including aging infrastructure, rising energy demand, and the impact of international sanctions. Rolling blackouts, particularly during peak demand periods in summer and winter, have become a reoccurring issue. And, like, when you go and look at this, the country of Iran suffers from not having enough electricity to provide for its citizens. I believe the population of Iran is somewhere like 90-something million. It's a lot of people, all right? And their infrastructure is strained because of the use of those resources. And so when you go and look, the situation in Iran is that they're enriching uranium, likely not to build nuclear weapons, especially if our defense intelligence is showing, like our Director of National Intelligence is saying, yeah, they enriched uranium, but it doesn't look like they're planning on using it to build nuclear weapons. So they built up this uranium supply. I don't know if it means that they were planning on building more nuclear power plants. That's possible. But, like, we as a country preemptively decided to bomb another country because they are building up their supply of fuel that they could use for a power plant. They could also use for nuclear weapons. But instead of us asking, instead of us trusting, we decided to be impulsively preemptive and warmongering and just bomb them. You see where I'm getting at? Iran suffers from a lot of power outages. So guess what they're trying to do? They're trying to increase the capacity of energy they have for their power grid. Iran seeks to cap power outages despite the rising summer load. Iran will seek to limit electricity outages in the residential sector. So, by the way, Iran as a country suffers from rolling power outages. Meaning that, like, put that in perspective for here in America. Think of if you have a rolling power outage between the hours of 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Just spitballing, thinking of times. That probably would not be a good idea. But like, just imagine trying to live through, oh yeah, knowing that there's not going to be any electricity for this period of time. Think about every single aspect of your life that relies on some sort of power. Your phone charging, the lights being on, boiling a pot of water, maybe even the plumbing, fueling your car. So all of this being said, Iran suffers from power outages. So it's very likely that they were building up this uranium enrichment supply to then use for building more nuclear reactors or fueling nuclear reactors. I don't have proof on that or anything, but like, you build up a fuel supply, you could then use that fuel for power. You could also use it for nuclear weapons. But we as the United States decide that it has to be the nefarious kind. It has to be, oh my gosh, you are dangerous. You are a brown person and you are dangerous. So we just go ahead and bomb them. Do you see where like this gets into this white supremacist American supremacy idea as well? Like, enriched uranium isn't a deterrent? Right, but you do realize that we enrich uranium in the United States. We enrich uranium in the United States. We use it for our nuclear reactors. So what I'm specifically saying is, like, Iran suffers from power outages. No easy solution for Iran's water crisis as power outages spread. They're at a dire point where industries are shutting down. They're seeking to cap power outages because of the rising summer load. They're seeking to limit electricity outages in the residential sector to 2 hours a day. In an effort to regulate public sector energy use, all government offices have been equipped with smart meters so that they can automatically restrict consumption if it oversteps certain assigned limits. Despite being rich in oil and gas resources, Iran has faced recurring energy shortfalls due to the infrastructure challenges and international sanctions. In recent years, officials have imposed rolling blackouts. Furthermore, suffering from routine blackouts is really, really tough in that sense. But like, enriched uranium can be used for power plants, and it can also be used for nuclear weapons. So the crux of what I'm trying to say with all of this here is that instead of us exchanging in good faith with Iran, we just assume that they are acting as bad actors. And we're assuming that they are acting as bad actors instead of asking. And our intelligence is showing, actually, there's no nefarious intentions to do anything with this enriched uranium. So we go ahead when they, this is my thing. I don't know for certain, but I would not be surprised if this is what is truly happening. If Iran is building up their enriched uranium supply in order to stop their country from suffering blackouts, you know what we just did? We just bombed their supply over our blatant, unfounded fear and racism. That would not be an inconceivable development. Now, again, there's a lot of stuff that I still don't know, we still don't know. But when you look at it, the facts of the situation are, we bombed Iran because of enriched uranium, which can be used for fuel or nuclear weapons. Our Defense Intelligence Agency says that there's no evidence to suggest they're using that enriched uranium for nuclear weapons. But we bombed them anyway, because our biggest ally convinces us that Iranians, that these Muslim people are so dangerous. Meanwhile, our intelligence is saying that, yeah, I don't know if they are. So we basically just jumped to the most preemptive warmongering strike per the enthusiasm of the military-industrial complex to blow up another country when they could have just been trying to pull their own citizenry out of rolling blackouts. Does that make sense? And I would not be surprised if that is what has happened here. And instead of our news media actually talking about how in Iran they suffer from not having a lot of electricity, they decide to jump to the gun and fearmonger, racistly fearmonger about the existence of Iranians being Muslim. And like, we are aiding and abetting a genocide. Do you think it's inconceivable that we would jump to that kind of conclusion as America? So, y'all following me? I feel like I got deviated, which was so unfortunate. I feel like I got deviated from really driving home that point because of trolls trying to distract me, which I need to get better at. But I also just encourage that you go and check that. And of course, there's a lot of people who spread a lot of misinformation. It's important to know that most of the 500 different commercial power nuclear reactors operating under construction in the world today require uranium enriched. So, like, they are enriching uranium. Doesn't mean that they are using it for weapons. This is the kind of critical journalism that I feel like America lacks. So, you all understand what I mean? So, keep up the good work. Thank you. I have to get going. I have to get to work. Shout out to my amazing moderators. Y'all are awesome. James, you're really coming back in with another... Is that another account? Is that another account? I appreciate every single one of you. Y'all are awesome. Shout out to my amazing moderators. Akicha, Ilisa. Yeah, look how they reacted to Mondani. Yeah, no, exactly. So, I appreciate every single one of you. Y'all are all awesome. Just remember, shout out to my amazing moderators, Ellie, Akicha, Joanna Tech, Ilisa, Cherie, Kate. Y'all are awesome. Am I missing anyone in that? Jenny, love you all. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever, 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 ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye!